and welcome to the daily chapter reading of It's Your Loss, Living with Grief. What comes after loss from the one you thought it would be bad forever? Back over in Introvert's Corner, and I'm thinking about how much longer it took me than Robin to figure out the positives in loss. There wasn't a moment or a thing that suddenly fell into place like her understanding of her relationship with her mom, but for me it's been a slow graduation into a place that feels better than it used to. The paradox of loss is that by losing something, you often gain something else. Not just the ability to cry for days on end, you might also get to open up the doorway to different parts of yourself. Steered into a different way of being, forced to balance on one stilt instead of two, you'll learn as much about yourself and get to understand yourself better in this bold new world. The inclination might be to hang on for dear life to what was there before, in the choppy seas of loss. Letting go of the life raft of familiarity can feel like the most dangerous thing you can do, because of course you think you'll sink. But imagine letting go and finding out you not only float, but discover you can swim. The all-inclusive cruise ship you were on might have been wrecked and sunk to the bottom of the ocean, but you're not adrift, far from it. In fact, you're going to swim yourself to shore on some tropical island you've never heard of and build a life for yourself there, full of richness and bounty. And on the island, you'll find other people who've survived that same choppy sea, and you'll help each other find shelter and safety. For the people who get to that point, loss is never final. It's a new beginning and can help to lay the foundation of a stronger you. It's like being chumped into a pit of slow-moving quicksand. You have to get out or you'll perish. And on the way out, you'll develop some killer biceps you can then use to do lots of heavy lifting back in real life. It's about moving towards the things that scare you the most and getting comfortable in their presence. There's rarely a shortcut to get to the good stuff, but if you can put in the work, whether that's hand embroidering your own mourning shroud, sitting very still with your sadness, or seeking out that external help, there's contentment and peace to be found on the other side. If you're newly in your loss, this might all feel a bit much. I know when my mom died that finding anything other than the completely terrible in it would have felt like a betrayal. So if that's you, treat this like it's a hazy, unimagined story, something you might want to think of a little further down this line. Because there's no rush. Nobody's saying you need to get over there now, but to know that it won't be bad times forever, that's the thing. Initiating download. This might be uncomfortable to read, but I am glad every day that I went through my big loss. I will never be glad that my mom is dead, and I still feel pain for her in my heart, but I'm thankful for everything I've learned from the experience of living through losing her. When I think of the person I was before, I was so lost, so afraid, so ungrounded in the world and unsure of my own self. And without having lived through the worst possible thing, I might never have needed to break out of that cycle that normal. Losing my mom was hell, and I lived through some truly traumatic moments because of it, but from the other side I can see that it made me face up to what was bad in my life. Made me look at something so bad I couldn't use my traditional coping mechanisms and bury it. And I know myself better than I ever would have done without having lost my mom. When life kicks your emotional crutches out from under you, you find out whether you can stand. And it sometimes shows you that one of the legs you're standing on is broken. You might try for a really long time to stand on it, but it just keeps getting broken in more and more places until eventually you have to sit down and let it heal. Sure, the healing's painful and takes a long time, but it's also nourishing and it leaves you stronger and more unshakable. And your healing journey will be all your own, each one different to the last. Where Robin wanted to remark at her loss as partially positive from early on, I would never have been able to do that. Wouldn't have wanted to if I could. I was living brand doom. I thought for a long time that that's just what life was like after you lost your best person, just really rubbish all the time, but it's not. It gets better. With work and time and a lot of kindness to yourself, it does get better. We might want to look at loss as a blip to be processed and moved on from, but that removes the genuine goodness from the situation. Loss never really goes away. It feeds into all the other bits of life if you let it in the very best ways. The understanding you have of yourself, the compassion you feel for others, it's all on the loss buffet table, and you can help yourself. Heck, you can go fetch a plate of it for other people if you like. There's plenty to go around. Grow your roots. I often think of any change like repotting a plant. You're the plant in this analogy. It's probably relatively comfortable in the pot, but a little cramped, and your roots are getting kind of tangled, and you know you're not going to be able to flower very much unless you get a new pot. Only getting to the new pot requires vulnerability. There'll be a moment where your precious roots are on show, all white and gnarly, and you have to shake all the soil off them, and they'll feel exposed. And then you get into the bigger pot, and it still feels a bit shocking to be there. But gradually, slowly, you bed in and stretch out, and before you know it, that new pot is home, and you're growing new shoots and flowering like Elton John's garden. The process of any change is uncomfortable, but change so often brings about something good. So imagine what good a monumental, life-altering change like loss could bring about. Yes, loss is shit, but shit is fertilizer, and fertilizer makes things grow. The other thing about loss is that it is unavoidable unless you actually do go and live in a hut by yourself forever, because loss of a thing is the counterbalance to having a thing. You can't experience one without having had the other. If you have something one day, unless you and that thing live forever, it will go away. I don't know how comforting that is, but I think I find a little solace in knowing that the vast sadness I've had for my mom came about because of the vast love we shared when she was alive. That the feeling of aloneness I felt exists because I had oneness with her. It reminds me that there was good before there was bad, and I think that's quite a nice thing. One of the less good things my loss gave me is a hypervigilance for signs of future loss. So I worry when somebody doesn't message back that they hate me and have left for good. I used to panic when my partner left the house in case he got hit by a bus. You get the idea. It's fun in my head, but the thing I also know because of it is that if loss happens, even the worst loss I can think of, I know I can get through it. It'll be sad, it'll hurt, but it'll come out the other side into a new normal. And I want you to know the same thing. If you can pick your way through all that sadness, you will be okay. Maybe more than okay, you might even flourish. Of course, in life, nothing comes for free, and often if there are benefits to be found in getting comfortable with your loss, there's an emotional payoff somewhere. For me, for lots of us, that will be guilt. Guilt that you get to enjoy life, guilt that you've managed to turn your loss into something helpful, guilt that you might even benefit from that horrible situation. But you have to give yourself a break. Nobody's designed to feel bad forever, and if you're beginning to see yourself flourish not in spite of, but because of the loss you went through, that's a statement to the work you've done to get there. It's not about pimping out your loss for personal gain. It's about understanding the impact it's had on you and being honest with yourself about what you need. Once you start looking at that, it's pretty hard to stop. That honesty, once you have it, is a superpower you'll probably never give up, because it empowers you to live your very best, most authentic life. And to know that it's okay to do that, to reposition your loss not as a standalone, untouchable moment, but as a fully integrated part of you, that's when the magic happens. Becoming this new you doesn't mean you're over it. It doesn't mean you'll never be sad about it again, and doesn't mean you might not be whipped around the face with it when you least expect it. You're not leaving behind the memories of your lost one. If anything, it means you're taking them with you. The microchip version that's assimilated everything you've learned from them. You're you, but different. Upgraded. You've added a few new filters, and the world just looks a little bit changed through them. If you're an introvert like me, it's likely that you'll start to see those changes happen on the inside first, and the way you talk to yourself or relate to the world might start to shift a little. Where an extrovert might know they're getting comfortable with loss because they cry less frequently on their friends, we introverts might know it because we're able to cry more frequently with friends, to get our loss out in public to talk about and examine. Be Adam Sandler. You'll have seen Robin and I talking about the mental health side of loss in terms of building a little emotional house. Every time you do something good for yourself, you get another brick to put in it. But no emotional house is stable without solid foundations. So it might be that you need to knock down a few supporting walls and examine a rising damp problem before you can mix your cement, and that's okay. Sometimes 2 steps backwards is exactly where you need to be. Imagine how shaken you feel by that initial loss earthquake. Then imagine yourself moving through the world, safe in your unshakable emotional house of rubber bricks. The house that you build yourself, and that you can have friends over to whenever you like. Doesn't that feel warm and safe? Loss might feel like it's explode your existing house, but that means you get to rebuild it however you want it, with a new annex and a pool. Maybe you choose a whole new career sewing quilts, or join a bereavement group, or go trekking at the weekends, or take a year off, or adopt a dog, or take up karate, or enter that competition in the UK where you chase around cheese down a big hill. Life's full of encounters and opportunities you might not have taken without first living through the discomfort of loss. Think of it like the plot of every Adam Sandler movie ever. You're trundling along, then something bad happens, then you go through a series of difficult and farcical events, before finally emerging victorious, changed but still Adam Sandler. Just Adam Sandler, who's a more comprehensive golfer, hairdresser, wedding singer. And if that's not the perfect ending point for a note on finding yourself after loss, I don't know what it is.